The arrival of doom. The night sky over Earth seemed calm, its stars twinkling like tiny diamonds in the vastness of space. But deep in the darkness, far beyond what human eyes could see, something was coming. Something that could end everything humanity had built. Captain Alina stood on the command deck of the Earth Space Defense Center, staring at the large screen in front of her. It displayed a cluster of red dots moving steadily toward Earth. These were not friendly ships. They were an invading fleet of alien warships, bigger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced, and they were getting closer by the second. Alina tightened her grip on the edge of the console. Her crew worked frantically around her, their faces pale with fear. The data pouring in was grim. The alien fleet wasn't just large, it was massive. Hundreds of ships, each armed with weapons powerful enough to wipe out entire cities, were heading straight for Earth. "Can we confirm their intentions?" Alina asked, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant Harris, her communications officer, looked up from his station. "No reply to our hails, Captain, but their movements match the reports we've seen from other systems. They destroy everything in their path." Alina nodded, her jaw tightening. The reports from other planets have been terrifying. These aliens, known only as the Annihilators, had swept through the galaxy like a plague, leaving nothing but ruins behind. No one knew why they attacked. There were no demands, no negotiations, only destruction. The silence in the room was broken by an alert from the radar station. "Captain, their fleet is now within our outer sensor range," an officer reported. "ETA to Earth's orbit, 72 hours. Alina turned to her second-in-command, Commander Blake. "How long until our defense fleet is ready?" 24 hours, ma'am," Blake replied. "But even with everything we have, it won't be enough." It was the truth. Humanity's fleet was strong, but it was nothing compared to the power of the Annihilators. Earth's chances of survival were slim, and everyone on the command deck knew it. Still, Alina wasn't ready to give up. "We fight with what we have," she said firmly. "We'll hold the line as long as we can, and we'll send out a distress signal to the galaxy. If there's anyone out there who can help, we need them now." Blake hesitated. "Do you think anyone will answer? After what the Annihilators did to the other planets?" Alina met his gaze. "I don't know, but we have to try." The distress signal was sent out moments later, broadcasting on every frequency known to humanity. It was a simple, desperate message. "This is Earth. We are under attack. If you can hear this, we need your help. Please." As the message echoed into the void of space, Alina turned her focus back to the task at hand. There was no time to wait for a miracle. Earth's defenses needed to be prepared, and every second counted. Far away, in the darkness of space, the alien fleet continued its march toward Earth. The ships were sleek and ominous, their surfaces glinting like polished metal under the light of distant stars. Inside the lead ship, the alien commander watched the blue planet grow larger on the screen before him. His expression was unreadable, but his intentions were clear. "Target identified." The alien's cold voice echoed through the control room. "Prepare to initiate planetary siege upon arrival." The fleet's weapons systems powered up, glowing with an eerie red light. They were ready to unleash destruction the moment they reached Earth. Back on the ground, chaos was spreading across the globe. The news of the approaching fleet had leaked, and panic was growing. People crowded into bunkers, packed their belongings, and prayed for a miracle. Governments tried to maintain order, but fear was a powerful force, and it was quickly taking hold. At the defense center, Alina walked through the control room, checking on her crew. She paused beside Lieutenant Harris, who was monitoring the distress signal. "Any responses yet?" she asked. Harris shook his head. "Not yet, ma'am. But it's only been an hour. There's still time." Alina nodded, though she couldn't shake the feeling of dread that was settling in her chest. She had always known that humanity would face challenges as it reached for the stars. But this was beyond anything she had ever imagined. She stopped at the observation window and looked out at the Earth below. The planet was beautiful, its blue and green surface glowing against the blackness of space. It was worth fighting for. No matter the odds, she would not let it fall without a fight. "We'll hold the line," she whispered to herself, "no matter what it takes." As the hours passed, the tension grew. The alien fleet moved closer, unstoppable and unrelenting. Earth's defenses were being prepared, but everyone knew it was a losing battle. Humanity's only hope lay in the faint possibility that someone, somewhere, would answer the call for help. And far away, on a distant, dangerous planet, a group of unlikely allies was about to make a decision that would change everything. The Deathworlders answer the call. Far across the galaxy, on a planet unlike any other, the signal reached a world called Avaron, a place of unforgiving storms, endless deserts, and towering mountains that pierced the sky. Avaron was home to the Deathworlders, beings forged by the harshest conditions nature could throw at them. They were survivors, warriors, and above all, feared legends across the stars. Karak, the leader of the Deathworlder clans, stood on the balcony of his fortress. The crimson sun of Avaron bathed the rugged landscape below. His sharp eyes scanned the horizon as the faint message from Earth echoed through the communication device in his hand. "Help us. We are under attack. Humanity needs you." The voice was faint, desperate, yet resolute. Karak closed his eyes and let the words settle in his mind. He had heard similar cries before, from civilizations that had begged for help only to crumble under the Annihilator's relentless assault. Still, this message felt different. It wasn't just a plea. It was a challenge. Behind him, his trusted advisor, Marin, entered the room. Her reptilian features shimmered under the fading sunlight. "Another cry for help, Karak," she said, her tone calm but cautious. "We've heard many before. Why should this one be different?" Karak turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Because it is not in our nature to ignore a fight worth fighting." Marin tilted her head, her sharp teeth glinting in a faint smile. "And what makes you think this fight is worth it? The Annihilators are not just an enemy. They are a force of destruction. Even we, the Deathworlders, are no match for their full might." Karak's voice was firm. "We've survived what others could not. Avaron made us stronger than anyone else in the galaxy. If there is a chance to stop the Annihilators, we owe it to ourselves, and to the galaxy, to try." Marin's gaze softened. She had followed Karak for years, and though his decisions often seemed reckless, they were always guided by an unyielding sense of honor. "Then we must summon the clans," she said. "This will not be an easy task." Across the rugged surface of Avaron, the Deathworlder clans gathered. Warriors from every corner of the planet arrived, their scared faces and battle-worn armor telling stories of countless victories. Some rode massive creatures native to Avaron, while others arrived in ships barely held together after years of combat. Karak stood on a raised platform, addressing the gathered crowd. His voice boomed like thunder, echoing through the canyon where they had assembled. "Brothers and sisters of Avaron, today we are called upon to do what others cannot. Humanity, a species with the courage to defy extinction, has asked for our help. The Annihilators march toward their home, seeking to destroy them as they have destroyed so many before. But I ask you, will we stand by and watch another flame of life be snuffed out, or will we rise and fight?" The crowd roared in response, their voices blending into a single deafening cry. They were not a people who backed away from challenges. If anything, they thrived in the face of impossible odds. Marin stepped forward, her voice clear and sharp. "This is no ordinary battle. The Annihilators are more powerful than anything we faced, but we are Deathworlders. We were born to survive the impossible. If we go together, and we fight not just for humanity, but for the future of the galaxy." The warriors raised their weapons, their determination solidified. The decision had been made. The Deathworlders would answer the call. As the clans prepared their fleet, the atmosphere on Acheron was electric with anticipation. Ships that had long been dormant were pulled from their resting places and repaired with a mix of brute force and ingenuity. The Deathworlder Fleet was not shiny or pristine, but it was strong, brutal, and built for war. Karak walked through the hangar, inspecting the ships as engineers worked tirelessly. He paused beside Marin, who was overseeing the arming of a massive warship. "How long until we're ready to leave?" he asked. 2 hours, Marin replied. "We've loaded the heavy cannons and enough supplies for an extended campaign. But Karak, you know this is a gamble. Even if we reach Earth, we may not survive the battle." Karak nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Survival has never been guaranteed, Marin. That's what makes this worth it." Marin smiled faintly. "Then we'll make them remember the Deathworlders." As the fleet lifted off from Acheron's surface, the ground trembled under the sheer force of the engines. Thousands of warriors boarded their ships, ready to face the greatest enemy they had ever known. In the command ship, Karak stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the vastness of space. "Set course for Earth," he ordered, "and prepare for war." The stars outside the ship blurred as the fleet entered hyperspace, racing toward humanity's hour of need. Behind them, Acheron grew smaller, but the resolve of its people burned brighter than ever. Back on Earth, Captain Alina's team picked up a signal on their radar. It was faint but unmistakable. A fleet was heading their way. But was it friend or foe? The question hung heavy in the air as the signal grew stronger. The Deathworlders were coming. Humanity's last stand. Captain Alina stood in the center of the Earth Space Defense Command's control room. The large holographic map of Earth's orbit was filled with hostile red dots representing the approaching alien fleet. The annihilators were now just 48 hours away, and Earth's defenses were still far from ready. She gripped the edge of the console, her knuckles white. Every report coming in painted the same grim picture. Humanity had no chance of surviving without help. Yet there had been no responses to their distress call, no signs that anyone out there cared enough, or was brave enough, to stand with them. "Status report," Elena demanded, her voice sharp. Lieutenant Harris looked up from his station. "Captain, planetary defense systems are at 60% functionality. The fleet is on standby, but we got barely enough firepower to hold them off for a few hours." Elena nodded grimly. "We'll make it work. We have no other choice." The air was thick with tension. Around her, the crew moved with quiet determination, but the fear in their eyes was unmistakable. The annihilators were infamous throughout the galaxy. Their ships were massive, their technology far superior, and their tactics ruthless. Earth's forces were courageous but hopelessly outmatched. As she paced the room, a notification flashed on the central screen. A message from the United Earth Council. Elena sighed and opened the channel. A familiar face appeared on the screen. Counselor Durant, his expression grave. "Captain Elena," he said, his voice steady but strained. "You're aware of the situation. If the annihilators breach our defenses, billions of lives will be lost. Are you confident we can hold them off long enough to evacuate key population centers?" Elena hesitated. Confidence wasn't the word she'd use. "We'll hold the line as long as we can, Counselor. But without reinforcements, our chances are slim." Durant's eyes narrowed. "And the distress signal? Has there been any response?" "No, sir," she admitted. "We're still monitoring all frequencies, but so far, nothing." Durant sighed heavily. "Then we must prepare for the worst. Do what you can, Captain. Humanity is depending on you." The screen went dark, leaving Elena with the weight of an entire planet on her shoulders. Hours passed, and Earth's defenses scrambled to make final preparations. Fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits, engineers worked around the clock to reinforce the orbital platforms, and soldiers prepared for the ground invasion that would inevitably follow if the fleet broke through. Elena stood in the observation deck, looking out at the blue and green planet below. It was beautiful, so full of life and potential. It was hard to believe that, in less than 2 days, it could all be reduced to ash. Behind her, Commander Blake entered the room. "Captain, we've picked up something unusual on long-range sensors," he said. She turned sharply. "What is it?" "It's another fleet," Blake said, his tone uncertain. "It's smaller than the Annihilator's fleet, but it's heading directly toward us. ETA, 14 hours. Elena's heart raced. Another fleet. Was it an ally responding to their distress call, or an opportunistic foe looking to take advantage of Earth's crisis? "Can we identify them?" she asked. Blake shook his head. "Not yet. Their ships don't match any known designs in our database." Elena's mind raced. She had hoped for reinforcements, but this was far from reassuring. If this new fleet was hostile, Earth would be crushed even faster. "Keep monitoring them," she ordered, "and send them a message. Let's find out who they are before we start panicking." As the hours ticked by, the mysterious fleet drew closer. Back in the command center, the tension was palpable. Everyone watched the monitors, waiting for any sign that the new arrivals might be allies. Suddenly, a response came through. The entire room fell silent as the message played. "This is Carrick, leader of the Deathworlder clans. We have heard your call for help. We are en route to your location. Prepare your forces. We will fight this battle together." The crew erupted into murmurs of disbelief. The Deathworlders were legends, warriors from one of the harshest planets in the galaxy. Many believed they were little more than myths, but here they were, answering humanity's call. Elena leaned forward, her eyes locked on the screen. "Send a reply. Thank them, and tell them to hurry." But not everyone shared her relief. In the shadows of Earth's political halls, doubt began to spread. Could the Deathworlders be trusted? Were they truly coming to help, or did they have their own motives? Councillor Durant raised the question in an emergency meeting. "We don't know these Deathworlders. They are infamous for their brutality. What if their arrival brings more destruction than salvation?" Back at the defense center, Elena brushed off such concerns. "Right now, they're the only ones coming to help," she told her crew. "And if they're willing to fight, that's all I need to know." As the Annihilator fleet loomed closer, Earth prepared for its last stand. Fighter jets roared into position, orbital cannons swiveled toward the stars, and soldiers braced for the worst. And then, just as the first wave of Annihilator ships breached Earth's outer defenses, a second fleet dropped out of hyperspace. The Deathworlders had arrived. Their ships were battered but powerful, built for war and survival. The lead vessel transmitted a final message to Earth's fleet. "Hold the line. We'll show you how Deathworlders fight." Suspense filled the air as the two fleets, humanity's fragile defenders and the Annihilator's ruthless armada, prepared to clash. But now, Earth wasn't alone. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. The Deathworlder Fleet appears. The first Annihilator ships breach Earth's outer defenses, their sleek and terrifying forms gliding through the void like predators hunting prey. Orbital cannons fired relentlessly, bright streaks of energy lighting up the blackness of space. But the Annihilator's shields absorbed the attacks with ease. Humanity's defense fleet scrambled to intercept. But it was clear they were outmatched. Captain Elena stood on the bridge of the Earth Space Defense Command. Her jaw tightened as she watched the battle unfold on the main display. "Hold your positions," she ordered through gritted teeth. "Don't let them break through." "Captain," Lieutenant Harris called from his station, his voice trembling. "I'm picking up another hyperspace signature. It's massive." Elena froze. Another fleet. Could this be the Deathworlders, or was it a second wave of Annihilators? "Put it on the main screen," she barked. The room fell silent as the display shifted. A series of blinding flashes marked the arrival of a new fleet, their ships bursting out of hyperspace like thunderclouds after a storm. The vessels were unlike anything Earth had ever seen. rugged, scared, and brutal in design, as though forged in the heart of a battle itself. One of the larger ships took the lead, its silhouette jagged and intimidating. Its hull was covered in glowing runes that seemed almost alive, pulsing with power. The symbol of the Deathworlders, a clawed hand gripping a broken sword, was etched across its side. A voice cut through the static of the comms channel, deep and commanding. "This is Carrick of the Deathworlder clans. Earth, we have arrived." Relief swept through the command center like a wave, but it was short-lived. Alina stepped closer to the console. "Carrick, this is Captain Alina of Earth's Defense Fleet. We are grateful for your help, but the Annihilators have already begun their assault. Can your forces engage immediately?" Carrick's reply was calm, almost too calm. "Do not worry, Captain. We are Deathworlders. Let us show you how we fight." The Deathworlder Fleet surged forward, their ships moving with precision and purpose. The Annihilators turned to face this unexpected threat, their formation breaking as they repositioned to intercept. For the first time in the battle, the enemy hesitated. The Deathworlders didn't waste a second. Their ships unleashed a barrage of weapons, firing projectiles that pierced through the Annihilators' shields with ease. Explosions rippled through the enemy fleet, sending debris spiraling into the void. On Earth, the sight of the Deathworlders in action was awe-inspiring. Their ships weren't sleek or advanced like the Annihilators, but they were ferocious. Every strike was deliberate, every maneuver calculated to cause maximum damage. "They're pushing them back," Commander Blake whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. Alina's eyes stayed locked on the screen. "They're not just pushing them back, they're dismantling them." Inside the Deathworlder flightship, Carrick stood at the command console, his eyes burning with focus. The holographic map before him displayed the chaos of the battle, with enemy ships highlighted in red. "Marin," he called to his second-in-command, "take the Vortex Squad and flank their eastern formation. Cut off their escape route." Marin nodded, her reptilian features twisting into a sharp grin. "Consider it done." The Deathworlder fleet split into smaller groups, each targeting specific weak points in the Annihilators' formation. Their tactics were brutal and efficient, using the Annihilators' arrogance against them. Back on Earth, Alina's crew worked frantically to support their unexpected allies. "Focus all firepower on the ships engaging the Deathworlders," she commanded. As the Earth fleet joined the counterattack, a flicker of hope ignited among the soldiers. For the first time, the invincible Annihilators seemed vulnerable. But the battle was far from over. The Annihilators quickly adapted, their ships reorganizing into a tighter formation. They unleashed a counter-assault, their energy weapons slicing through the void. One of the smaller Deathworlder ships was hit, exploding in a fiery burst. Carrick's voice came through the comms, steady and unshaken. "Hold the line, Deathworlders. Do not falter. Every loss is a step toward victory." The Deathworlders pushed harder, their determination unyielding. But the Annihilators were relentless, and for every enemy ship destroyed, another seemed to take its place. As the battle raged, Alina received a transmission from Carrick. His image appeared on her screen, his scared face calm but intense. "Captain Alina," he said, "we are holding them off for now. But this is not a fight we can win with brute force alone. The Annihilators' mothership must be neutralized. It is the heart of their fleet. Destroy it, and the rest will crumble." Alina frowned. "That mothership is protected by their strongest forces. We don't have the firepower to break through." Carrick's eyes narrowed. "Then we will create an opening. Prepare a strike team. You'll have one chance." As the Deathworlders continued their assault, Carrick's fleet began a daring maneuver. They concentrated their fire on the Annihilators' main line, drawing their forces away from the mothership. The tactic was dangerous, leaving the Deathworlders vulnerable to counterattacks, but it was their only option. On Earth, Alina quickly assembled a team. "This is it," she told her crew. "If we can take out that mothership, we might actually have a chance." As the strike team prepared to launch, the battle outside reached its peak. The Deathworlders fought with everything they had, their ferocity unmatched. But the cost was high. Ships were falling, and time was running out. The stage was set for a final, desperate gamble. The battle of survival. The battlefield in space was chaos incarnate. Explosions rippled across the void, debris from destroyed ships scattering like deadly shrapnel. The Deathworlder Fleet, though fierce and unrelenting, was beginning to show cracks in its formation. The Annihilators, ruthless and methodical, were adapting to the Deathworlders' tactics. Inside the Deathworlder flagship, Karek's face remained stone-cold as his ship shook violently from incoming fire. The holographic display before him flickered with red alerts, casualty reports, critical damage notifications, and warnings of failing systems. "We're losing ships," Marin reported, her voice trained but steady. "If this keeps up, we won't last another hour." Karek's claws dug into the edge of the console. "Then we need to buy more time. Tell the fleet to focus all firepower on the left flank. Break their line. I don't care how many ships we lose. Earth needs that opening." Marin nodded and relayed the orders, but her gaze lingered on her commander. She could see the weight of the battle etched into his features. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for something greater, something Karek had never spoken aloud, but carried deep within him. Meanwhile, Captain Alina and her strike team were preparing to launch from Earth's orbital station. Their target, the Annihilator's mothership. The massive vessel loomed in the distance, an ominous fortress bristling with weapons and surrounded by an escort of heavily armed ships. "Team, listen up," Alina said, her voice firm as she addressed the group. "This mission is suicide. Let's not sugarcoat it. But if we don't take out that mothership, Earth is finished. You've all been chosen because you're the best, and I trust every single one of you to do your part." Her team nodded, their expressions grim but resolute. Among them were humans and Deathworlders, a mix of species united by the same goal. As the team boarded their small, heavily armed transport ship, a transmission came through from Karek. "Captain Alina." His voice boomed through the comms. "We're about to initiate the diversion. Once we've created the opening, you'll have no more than 5 minutes to reach the mothership. After that, you're on your own." Alina smirked. 5 minutes, plenty of time. Just make sure you hold the line." Karek's laugh was deep and humorless. "We don't hold the line, Captain. We are the line." The Deathworlder Fleet surged forward, concentrating their fire on the left flank of the Annihilator formation. The enemy fleet shifted to counter, leaving a narrow gap in their defenses. It was a dangerous gamble, one that cost the Deathworlders dearly. Ships exploded in rapid succession, their crews sacrificing themselves to keep the path open. "Now," Karek roared. Alina's transport ship shot out of the orbital station, its engines blazing as it sped toward the gap. The Annihilators noticed the maneuver almost immediately, redirecting their forces to intercept. "We've got incoming," one of Alina's pilots shouted as enemy ships closed in. "Hold steady," Alina commanded. "Focus on the target. Nothing else matters." The transport weaved through the chaos, dodging enemy fire and debris. The Deathworlders' diversion was working, but the cost was mounting. One by one, their ships were being destroyed, their sacrifices carving a fragile path for the strike team. Inside the transport, the atmosphere was tense. Marin, who had joined the strike team at Karek's insistence, adjusted her armor and checked her weapons. Her sharp eyes scanned the group. "You humans are brave," she said, breaking the silence. "Foolish, maybe, but brave." Alina raised an eyebrow. "I'll take that as a compliment." Marin grinned, her teeth glinting. It was. The mothership loomed closer, its sheer size dwarfing everything around it. The strike team's transport shuddered as enemy fire grazed its hull. "Shields are down to 20%. The pilot shouted. "We're not going to make it." "Yes, we will," Alina said firmly. Full speed ahead. Don't stop for anything." The transport dived into the gap, narrowly avoiding a barrage of enemy fire. Behind them, the Deathworlders were still holding the line, but barely. Carrick's voice came through the comms again, strained but determined. "You're almost there. Don't waste this opportunity. The galaxy doesn't get second chances." Finally, the transport reached the mothership, skimming along its surface as it searched for a point of entry. Marin pointed to a docking port near one of the ship's weapon arrays. "There," she shouted. The transport latched onto the port, and the strike team quickly disembarked. The air was thick with tension as they entered the massive ship, their weapons drawn. "Stay close," Alina ordered. "We're not here to fight. We're here to destroy." The team moved swiftly through the dark, metallic corridors of the mothership. The ship's interior was eerily quiet, save for the distant hum of its engines. But the silence didn't last. A blaring alarm echoed through the halls, followed by the sound of alien soldiers approaching. "They know we're here," Marin said, raising her weapon. Alina nodded. "Then we stick to the plan. We plant the explosives. And we get out. Let's move." As the team pushed deeper into the ship, the tension mounted. Every step felt like a gamble, every corner a potential ambush. The clock was ticking, and the survival of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, hung in the balance. The stage was set for the most critical part of their mission, but the question remained, would they make it out alive? The turning point. The corridors of the Annihilator mothership were a labyrinth of cold steel and pulsing red lights. Captain Alina led her strike team through the shadowy passageways, her senses on high alert. Every step echoed ominously, a constant reminder that they were deep within enemy territory. "Time check," Alina whispered, her voice sharp but quiet. 7 minutes until the fleet can't hold the line," Marin replied, glancing at the small timer on her wrist device. Her reptilian features were calm, but her grip on her plasma rifle was tight. "Then we have 6 to finish this," Alina said. "Move fast. No mistakes." Ahead, the team's tech specialist, Marcus, crouched beside a sealed blast door. "This is it," he said, gesturing to the door. "The reactor core is on the other side. Once we plant the charges, this ship is going down." "Can you get it open?" Alina asked. Marcus smirked nervously. "Give me 60 seconds. Keep me covered." As Marcus worked, the sound of marching footsteps echoed from behind. The team froze. "They're coming," Marin hissed. She and the other Deathworlders in the group moved into position, their weapons aimed down the corridor. Alina motioned for the humans to join them. "Hold your ground," she ordered. "We're not leaving without completing the mission." The enemy soldiers appeared moments later, their sleek armor glinting under the red emergency lights. They moved in perfect formation, weapons raised. Without hesitation, the annihilators opened fire, their energy blasts tearing through the air. "Engage," Alina shouted. The corridor erupted into chaos. Plasma bolts and laser fire lit up the darkness as the team fought fiercely to hold their position. Marin charged forward, her powerful frame making her a force of nature. She tore through the enemy ranks with brutal efficiency, her weapon glowing with each shot. 5 more seconds. Marcus yelled, frantically typing into his datapad as sparks flew from the door's control panel. "We don't have 5 seconds," Alina shouted back, firing her rifle at an advancing soldier. Finally, the door slid open with a hiss. Marcus grinned triumphantly. "We're in." "Fall back," Alina ordered, her voice cutting through the noise. "Inside, now." The team rushed into the reactor room, sealing the door behind them. The space was massive, dominated by a glowing central core that pulsed with energy. The hum of the reactor was deafening, a constant reminder of the ship's immense power. "This is it," Marin said, her eyes narrowing as she surveyed the room. "The heart of the beast." Marcus set the charges, Alina commanded. "The rest of you, hold the perimeter. They'll be coming for us." As Marcus hurried to plant the explosives around the reactor, the team spread out, weapons at the ready. The tension was suffocating. Everyone knew the stakes. There would be no second chances. Outside, the Deathworlder Fleet continued to fight with everything they had. Karak's flagship took another devastating hit, the impact shaking the entire vessel. Shields at 12%. An officer reported, "We can't take much more of this." Karak gritted his teeth. "Keep firing. We hold the line until they succeed, or we die trying." The Deathworlder's sacrifice was buying the strike team precious seconds, but it came at a heavy cost. Ships were falling one by one, their debris scattering into the void. The annihilators were relentless, their overwhelming firepower slowly tipping the balance. Back in the reactor room, the first explosive was armed. "One down, 3 to go," Marcus said, his hands moving quickly as he secured the second charge. The sound of pounding echoed from the sealed door. The annihilators were trying to break through. "They're not giving up," Marin said, her voice low but steady. "Let them come," Elena replied. "We're not leaving until this ship is dust." Suddenly, the pounding stopped. An eerie silence filled the room. "That's not good," Marcus muttered. Before anyone could respond, the far wall exploded inward, and a group of heavily armed annihilator soldiers stormed in. These weren't the standard foot soldiers. They were elite, towering figures with advanced weaponry and unyielding precision. "Elite Guard," Marin shouted. "Take cover." The team scrambled as the room erupted into chaos once again. The elites moved like shadows, their every attack precise and devastating. Elena ducked behind a console, firing back as she tried to draw their attention away from Marcus. "Marin," she called. "Keep them busy. Marcus needs time." Marin growled, baring her sharp teeth. "With pleasure." She charged at the nearest elite, her claws ripping through their armor as she fought with primal ferocity. 2 charges armed. 3 charges armed. "Almost there," Marcus yelled. Elena peeked out from cover, her rifle blazing as she took down one of the elites. But more kept coming, their reinforcements relentless. "Marin, fall back," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Not until he's done," Marin roared, slamming another elite into the reactor core with enough force to crack their armor. The final charge clicked into place. "Charges are set," Marcus shouted. "We've got 60 seconds to get out of here." Elena's heart raced as she gave the order. "Everyone, fall back to the transport. Move." The team fought their way out of the reactor room, the charges ticking down behind them. The corridors were swarming with enemies, but desperation fueled their escape. Marin covered the rear, her weapon blazing as she held off the pursuing annihilators. "Go," she shouted. "Don't look back." The transport came into view, its engines already running. The team climbed aboard, Marcus sliding into the pilot's seat. "Hang on," he yelled, and the ship lurched forward, speeding away from the mothership. The Deathworlder Fleet received the signal. The charges were set. Karak's voice boomed through the comms. "All ships, pull back. Get clear of the blast radius." The battered fleet disengaged, retreating just as the mothership erupted in a blinding explosion. The shockwave rippled through space, tearing apart the annihilator fleet in its wake. On board their transport, Elena and her team watched the explosion in stunned silence. The mothership was gone. But as the dust settled, one question lingered in the air. Had they truly won? Victory at a cost. The blinding light of the explosion faded, leaving only the dark void of space, scattered with the debris of the annihilator mothership. The remaining ships in the annihilator fleet faltered, their formation breaking apart as confusion and panic spread through their ranks. For the first time in the battle, the invincible force of destruction seemed vulnerable. Captain Elena slumped back into her seat aboard the transport ship, her heart pounding as she stared at the remains of the mothership through the viewport. They had done it. They had destroyed the heart of the enemy fleet. But the silence that followed felt heavy, as though the universe was holding its breath. Marin sat beside her, bloodied but unbowed. "We bought them a chance," the Deathworlder said, her voice low and steady. "Let's see if they can finish the job." In the chaos of the aftermath, the Deathworlder Fleet rallied for a final assault. Karek's voice boomed across the comms, his tone as fierce as ever. "Deathworlders, this is our moment. The enemy is broken, but they are not defeated. Show them what it means to challenge those who thrive where others perish. No retreat, no surrender. Today, we make them remember us." The Deathworlder Fleet surged forward, their battered ships blazing with determination. The remaining Annihilator vessels attempted to regroup, but the loss of their mothership had left them leaderless and disorganized. On the surface of Earth, people watched the battle unfold on massive screens in underground bunkers and safe zones. Cheers erupted as the mothership's destruction was broadcast, but the celebrations were muted by the knowledge that the fight was not over. In the Earth Space Defense Command, Commander Blake leaned over a console, monitoring the scattered remnants of the Annihilator fleet. "They're retreating in disarray, Captain," he said, his voice tinged with cautious optimism. Alina's voice crackled through the comms. "Don't assume anything yet, Commander. Keep the orbital cannons locked on their escape routes. If they try to regroup, we'll cut them down." As the Deathworlders pressed the attack, the final battle became a brutal close-quarters skirmish. The Annihilators fought with the desperation of a cornered predator, but the Deathworlders were relentless. Marin, now back aboard Karek's flagship, joined the fray in one of the smaller attack vessels, her ferocity inspiring those around her. "Karek," she called over the comms, "their flagship is falling back. If we take it down, the rest will scatter." "Then lead the charge, Marin," Karek replied. "Let them know that retreat is not an option." The final moments of the battle were a chaotic blur of explosions and relentless firepower. Marin's strike took out the Annihilator flagship, the massive ship collapsing in on itself as it was torn apart. The remaining enemy ships began to retreat, their once mighty fleet reduced to scattered survivors fleeing into the depths of space. Karek's voice echoed through the fleet. "Do not pursue. Let them run. They will carry the scars of this defeat for the rest of their existence." The Deathworlder and Earth fleets regrouped near the orbital station, their ships battered but victorious. The price of the battle was evident. Wreckage drifted across the void, and the losses on both sides were immense. On board the flagship, Karek stood before a holographic projection of Captain Alina. The two commanders locked eyes, their mutual respect unspoken but palpable. "You fought well, Captain," Karek said. "Your people showed courage I did not expect." Alina managed a tired smile. "We wouldn't have made it without you. Humanity owes the Deathworlders a debt we can never repay." Karek shook his head. "We do not fight for debts. We fight because survival demands it. Today, you survived. That is all that matters." As Earth began the slow process of rebuilding, the Deathworlders prepared to leave. Their ships, though damaged, still held the unmistakable aura of strength. Before departing, Marin approached Alina on the orbital station. "You're lucky, human," she said, her tone half-teasing. "Few species survive an encounter with the Annihilators." "Luck had nothing to do with it," Alina replied, meeting her gaze. "We had you." Marin smirked, then turned to board her ship. "Next time, maybe we'll need you. Until then, Captain." The Deathworlder fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed. The Annihilators had been defeated, not destroyed, but weakened, and humanity had earned its place among the stars. Alina stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, looking out at the wreckage of the battlefield. She thought of the lives lost, the sacrifices made, and the strange, fierce allies who had answered their call. Humanity had survived its darkest hour, but the scars of the battle would remain. And as Alina stared into the endless void, she knew one thing for certain: the galaxy had not seen the last of the Deathworlders.